The last couple of days, I've been feeling like I'm losing my mind. I was questioning, like, why? Why would you do this to your own mama? I just can't believe she's gone, for real.
When you got the news,
I was devastated. Devastated. Didn't want to believe it.
And I hear boom, 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 boom. Like, I hear 5.
In the quiet night of Galveston, the 911 call rang out. I heard multiple gunshots, and someone was shot in the house on Avenue Q. In just a few seconds, the familiar silence was broken, giving way to chaos and terror spreading through every alley. The woman mentioned in that call was Tiamoya Moore, 34 years old. To her friends and neighbors, the name Tiamoya is always associated with the will to overcome difficulties, give up bad habits to rebuild her life. She devoted all her heart to raising and protecting her 5 children, a small family that, although not rich, was full of love. But in that very house, on the night of September 11, 2025, tragedy struck the person closest to her, her daughter, who was only 16 years old. That night around 8 p.m., the atmosphere in Galveston, a sleepy Texas beach town, suddenly changed. Screams echoed, and the flashing lights of patrol cars and ambulances lit up the street. People around Avenue Q poured out, staring in bewilderment at a scene that seemed like something out of a movie. A small community known for family celebrations and close-knit neighbors is now haunted by a story too hard to believe. A devoted mother is dead, and the suspect is the daughter she protected with all her might. The burning question arose from that moment. What turned the sacred motherly love into an irreparable tragedy? At approximately 7:50 p.m., on September 11, 2025, the quiet neighborhood on 5100 Avenue Q, Galveston, Texas, was suddenly shaken by a series of loud noises. Several neighbors said they heard screams coming from the Moore family home, followed by a series of loud bangs.
She was screaming. And I hear boom, 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 boom. Like, I hear 5.
The sound startled many people, who rushed out onto their porches and looked around in confusion, not understanding what had just happened.
I was in the kitchen and I hear the shots and we come out and then all the police cars.
The street is pretty calm. There's not really that. This street is kind of busy, but it's still.
Inside the house, the scene unfolded in a shocking manner. The gun was not in the hands of a stranger, nor was it the result of a break-in. The shooter was the 16-year-old daughter of Tiamoya Moore, a 34-year-old woman known throughout the neighborhood as a devoted mother. In an instant, a seemingly normal family, filled with children's laughter, became the center of an unexpected tragedy. The deafening sounds continued, and shortly after, Tiamoya collapsed in her house, the place that had been her safest place. Witnesses said the unusual noise left them speechless, as no one had ever thought that such a thing could happen so close to where they lived. Before anyone could comprehend what had just happened, the shooter, the victim's daughter, had already left the scene. Some neighbors ran over trying to help, while others immediately called 911. Calls poured in one after another with the shocking message: someone shot in the house at 5100 Avenue Q. Police and ambulances were dispatched immediately, arriving within minutes. What shocked the community was that before that time, there was no sign of serious conflict in the family. Close neighbors confirmed that Tiamoya always appeared with her children in a simple, happy image. They did not hear any big arguments, and even less thought that the tragedy could originate from her own daughter. At that moment, the house that was once a warm home for 6 people suddenly became a sealed-off crime scene. Avenue Q, which was once known for the sounds of children playing, was now covered by the flashing lights of police cars. The neighbors watched with bewilderment and pain, because they knew that from that night on, the Moore family would never be the same again. The quiet of Avenue Q was shattered a few minutes after the explosions. Grace Molina, a neighbor who lives next door to the Moores, said she was outside checking her mailbox.
previous issues at the home?
No, she was screaming. She was screaming. And I hear boom, 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 boom. Like, I hear 5.
She heard intermittent screams, followed by echoes that sent shivers down her spine. At first, Melina thought someone was arguing loudly, but within seconds it became clear that something serious had happened. In a state of panic, Melina immediately grabbed her phone and dialed 911. Her voice was trembling as she reported, "I heard multiple gunshots in the house on the 5100 block of Avenue Q. Come immediately, someone is in danger." At the same time, several other residents also called the police after hearing unusual noises. The emergency system received continuous calls, forcing the authorities to act immediately. Within minutes, a Galveston Police Department patrol car was on the scene, accompanied by an ambulance. Flashing red and blue lights filled the street, sending families from the neighborhood out onto their porches, watching anxiously. The scene transformed a once familiar neighborhood into a hot spot, with everyone holding their breath waiting for news. When authorities entered the home, they quickly realized the seriousness of the situation. Tiamoya Moore, 34, was found in critical condition, suffering from severe injuries from the earlier gunfire. Emergency medical personnel immediately performed first aid and rushed her to the ambulance in a desperate bid to save every minute. The ambulance took Tiamoya to the University of Texas Medical Branch at Galveston, where the medical team was ready to take her in. However, on the night of September 11, 2025, doctors were forced to confirm the heartbreaking news. Tiamoya Moore did not survive. The news spread almost immediately, leaving many in the community in disbelief. Some neighbors later shared that they had never witnessed the Moore family having a conflict so big that the police had to intervene. The usual image was just a resilient mother, taking her children to school, going to the market, or sitting and chatting on the porch every afternoon. Therefore, the authorities confirmed her death that evening, which shocked everyone. From the hospital, information was quickly relayed to relatives and the community. Many people gathered in front of Avenue Q, quietly placing flowers and candles in memory. Questions began to appear, eyes looking at each other with a mixture of surprise and pain. Why did a seemingly peaceful family fall into tragedy? The incident on the night of September 11th not only took the life of a mother, but also left a huge void in the hearts of 5 children and the Galveston community. The quick discovery of Gracelia Melina and neighbors helped the police reach the scene in time, but that was not enough to prevent irreparable loss. The story quickly spread throughout Galveston. For many, what haunted them was not just the sound of the gunshots echoing through the night, but also the bitter truth. A mother fell at the hands of the child she had cared for and raised for 16 years. After evacuating residents and sealing off the area, the house at 5100 Avenue Q became the focus of the investigation. Under the spotlight of patrol cars, investigators entered with specialized equipment. Inside, the space was neat, with no signs of struggle or forced entry. The doors and windows were intact, with only bullet casings scattered on the floor, marking the scene of the tragedy. Forensic work was carried out on the night of September 11, 2025. Preliminary reports indicated that Tiamoya Moore died from severe gunshot wounds, and the time of death coincided with the neighbors hearing a series of explosions. Forensic examiners determined that Tiamoya died almost immediately after the gunshots, and all rescue efforts were too late. The key was the overall picture of the crime scene. There was no sign of a struggle, no broken or stolen items. That ruled out a break-in or a robbery gone wrong. These details, combined with witness testimony that the suspect left the house immediately after the incident, shaped the initial line of investigation. After completing the crime scene investigation on the night of September 11, 2025, the Avenue Q neighborhood was silent. The Moore family home was cordoned off. Investigators quietly took notes and collected evidence. While neighbors watched, no one could fully imagine the story behind the tragedy. What caught the attention was the sudden appearance of the suspect. The 16-year-old girl, who had left her home immediately after the shooting, returned to the scene shortly after the police arrived. Officers immediately arrested her on the spot, with many people watching. Notably, the suspect did not resist or try to run away again. Her silence made the situation even more difficult to explain. That moment is etched in the memories of the neighbors. They were shocked by the news of Tiamoya Moore's passing, and now saw her daughter being taken away by the police. The image of a familiar young girl on her way to school, now sitting quietly in a police car, made many people choke up, both pitying the mother and feeling sorry for her daughter who was too young. Investigators reviewed the events before and after 7:50 p.m. The main witness, Grace La Molina, and several other neighbors confirmed that they only heard screams and several explosions from inside the house, but saw no strangers or signs of forced entry. The statements matched the crime scene that had been examined earlier. There was no broken window, no broken lock. The shell casing landed in the exact same spot in the living room where Tiamoya was found. All this evidence eliminated the possibility of another person being involved. Throughout the investigation, officers focused on the details. Why did the suspect return to the scene? It could have been a panic attack or simply an ill-considered impulse. Whatever the reason, the return reinforced the evidence, allowing police to quickly piece together the puzzle. Within 24 hours, the initial case had been significantly strengthened. The forensic report confirmed Tiamoya's cause of death was a series of gunshots fired inside the house on the evening of September 11. There were no external factors at the scene. Witnesses agreed on what they heard. And most importantly, the 16-year-old girl, the only person present at the time of the incident, admitted to being present in the house when it all happened. On September 12, 2025, just one day after the incident, the Galveston Police Department officially announced that the 16-year-old girl was arrested and detained at the Jerry J. Essman Juvenile Justice Center. Here, she faces murder charges under Texas law. This information quickly spread through local media, shocking public opinion. Investigators are still reviewing security camera footage from the neighborhood. Some cameras captured the teen leaving the house around the time of the gunshots and returning shortly afterward. The footage matches witness testimony and crime scene data, further clarifying the sequence of events. It is worth mentioning that during the investigation, there was no evidence of any other individual's involvement or outside influence. The case was almost closed in one direction. The only suspect was the victim's daughter. With the cooperation of the police and the local prosecutor's office, the documents were completed quickly. The initial indictment stated that the act occurred on the evening of September 11, 2025, at the address Avenue Q, leading to the death of Tiamoya Moore. The suspect is the biological daughter, 16 years old, detained as a juvenile but with particularly serious charges. In the Galveston community, many people still cannot believe this truth. Neighbors who had seen Tiamoya walking her daughter to school, who had heard children laughing around the yard, now had to witness their daughter being escorted from their home in handcuffs. The scene was haunting and left a painful question. What had been secretly happening between mother and daughter that no one had noticed? The official investigation was concluded within a short time, just days after the incident. But its repercussions lingered, not only in court records but also in the community's memory. A once peaceful family, a devoted mother, and a 16-year-old girl, all wrapped up in a case that Galveston would talk about for a long time. As of late September 2025, the shocking case in Galveston had yet to enter a formal trial. After the 16-year-old girl was taken to the Jerry J. Essman Juvenile Justice Center, the case was handed over to the prosecutor's office to prepare for prosecution. However, because it involved a defendant under the age of 18, every legal step needed to be carefully considered. The Galveston County prosecutor said that under Texas law, cases involving juvenile suspects are typically handled under juvenile law. But in this particular case, the severity and nature of the offenses make it unlikely that the prosecutor will recommend upgrading the case to an adult trial. This decision, if approved, will directly affect the sentence and the direction of the entire case in the future. At present, the lawyers defending the rights of the 16-year-old girl are still working in parallel with the prosecutor to consider the relevant aspects, age, psychological factors, and family background before the incident. It is expected that in the last months of 2025, the court will have a preliminary hearing to clearly determine the form of prosecution. Only after that, a specific trial schedule will be set. In Galveston, the pain from the night of September 11 was still raw. Passers-by on Avenue Q were silent as they saw flowers and portraits placed in front of Moore's house. Friends and relatives of Tiamoya said they had just lost a devoted mother and were finding it hard to accept that the perpetrator was the daughter she had protected with all her heart. Legal experts say the case will set a precedent for how juveniles are tried in serious cases. The law must ensure justice for the victim while also taking into account the age and reintegration potential of young offenders. While waiting for the legal process, public opinion is still divided into many streams of opinion. Some believe that the juvenile law is the appropriate framework because the girl is too young, her future is not completely closed. But others also affirm that the serious nature of the case makes many believe that it should be handled similarly to adults in order to send a clear message about fairness and responsibility. To date, there are no final answers. The formal trial is still ahead, and the Galveston community and both families are watching the legal system closely. In the meantime, one question remains: how will justice be served, and can a balance be found between responsibility, fairness, and humanity? The tragedy in Galveston on the night of September 11, 2025, not only took the life of Tiamoya Moore, but also left a void that would be difficult to fill for her family and community. A devoted mother was gone, 5 children lost their main support, and a 16-year-old daughter faced a legal vortex and an uncertain future. A home once filled with laughter now had a heavy void. This is not just a family tragedy, but also a reflection of the problems of modern society, the pressures of adolescence, the lack of parent-child communication, and the support gaps that are sometimes overlooked. When the signs of crisis are not recognized in time, the consequences can be irreparable. Psychologists say that nurturing family bonds is as important as physical foundations.
Parents and kids do to talk to each other to avoid it getting to this point.
Right. De-escalation techniques, keep talking to your kids. Even if they don't want to talk to you, just keep going back and back.
Conversations, listening and sharing, however small, are sometimes enough to relieve tension before it turns into tragedy. The case is also a reminder of the importance of mental health education, not only in schools and communities, but also in every home. After all, one big question still resonates not only in Galveston, but in the hearts of every witness. How do we recognize the signs of crisis in parent-child relationships before it's too late?